Hi, Joellen.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Sumner.
Hey, Frank.
Hi, Ron.
Hello.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello, everyone.
We missed you last week, Sumner.
Yeah, I was telling Joelle and I have to work some Saturdays and it just is too late. So I would have been able to say hi for 15 minutes
Oh, well, you could do that sometime.
because it's dinner time here. It's 5:30 in the evening.
Oh, no, it hits you at a bad time, doesn't it?
It's mostly pretty good. I really, because
Well, I
even
meant
some
dinner
Saturdays I
time.
work, I get to come in.
Yeah. Well, I'm
We'll
glad
say,
you joined us.
sorry, no. Sorry, I don't notice that anybody is on Zoom but me when my fire tablet, so excuse-moi.
Hi, Cindy. Cindy just
Hi,
joined us.
Frank.
Hey, Cindy,
Hi,
Hi,
Cindy.
Sumner. How are you?
you see,
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
There it is.
I love it. I was telling Joellen how nice, because it's a Phrancko,
Yeah.
like I have very square shoulders, like
Mhm.
they're very square, right? That's
Very handsome.
right? So sometimes I'll have to buy a sweater that's too big and it just won't fit the rest of it.
Right. Mhm.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Sumner, you
Oh, no.
froze.
But he's
Oh,
not
dear.
making a funny face. It's fine.
Yes.
He put the sweater on because he was freezing.
Oh, very good.
To me,
Thank you, Jenny.
look at an underarm.
Oh, there
how
you're
smooth
back.
that is.
Sumner,
You're
did you
back.
know you froze?
So exciting. I saw
So-
that I froze.
Yeah,
Was
okay.
that the Andiamo light?
This is the spinach Andiamo light from our buddy Ron.
Good. Yes, because I
Um,
have that. That's going to be my next sweater too, that I'm doing one for one of the daughters.
I love the everything about this, but I do think I'm gonna sew a zipper in it.
Oh,
So you're going to do like a front zipper?
Yeah, just make it a zipper.
Just do it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've always just done it on my sewing machine.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the way to do it, but it sounded good and it's worked on other sweaters.
Right.
I've seen it
Well, I
done.
saw one that Jim Pericini did. What is it? Was it Meadow? What's the name of the sweater or whatever? But she just did it and then picked up the stitches just like you would for making a button band. But she only did like 3 rows. And then where she had the little pickup, then that's where she stitched the side of the zipper.
Huh.
And then so it's kind of so that little part of the zipper is covered over to just where the zipper teeth are really the only thing that shows. And she
Oh.
just whip stitched it by hand.
Yeah, I sew it on a long stitch in the machine
Mhm.
up 2 sides of a center. And I saw you do this crochet thing. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know
Well,
what I'm
that
doing.
was for the steek. That was for the steek for the cutting. And that was what it called for in that pattern.
Yeah, my steek, I just throw a yarn up the middle. I
Mhm.
sew down either side of it with the machine
Oh, so you do that, the steek
Yes.
even with the machine.
and just shoot right through the, just cut it up like nothing's getting,
Well, I
whatever.
know the cutting only took 15 minutes. The
You throw a
chaining
placard
took a
on.
long time.
And you put a zipper in. I mean,
Oh, wow, that's cool.
it sounds complicated, but it's so simple.
Well, the people that I've read that did it, they say it's easier really to do the zipper than it is to do the button bands and the buttonholes and muck with that.
Well, buttonholes, not a big fan of them because you almost have to buy your buttons before you do your placard.
Well, you do, because you have to know
And 'cause you gotta
exactly how
measure,
big you're going to
Like,
do.
how
and-
are you going to do your buttonhole and all that? They're very complicated.
And I know for mine, when I did it for Ashley's sweater, that day tripper, I was doing 2-2 ribbing because that matched the ribbing that was on the bottom and on the
Okay.
sleeves. And I thought it looked good with the scale of that sweater. But then it's like there's only certain places where you put the buttonholes that it looks good. If you
Right.
put them other places, it looks kind of wonky.
The one
So,
thing I like about making your own buttons is you can always put 2 on the the waistband.
Yeah, see,
and then
that's what I
space
ended
out
up
the
doing
rest.
to make it spaced right for her, is I
You know?
put two clothes together and then the rest were spaced out evenly
But
to
on
make
this
it,
one,
to make it
like,
work.
I have not, like literally, I just turn in the edge of the sweater and sew the zipper in. Like I don't,
Mhm.
there's no need for a placard that's long and just keep knitting this
Yeah,
long.
just keep
sweater.
doing, yeah.
I doubt it. I may.
Yeah.
I tend to go easy.
Well, for
Then-
the regular placket, the way that Jen specified it was that she just, you just did a pickup, just like you were just gonna do a button band. But you
Yeah.
only did a couple rows and then that was what you sewed on. Ron, you've got to have done zippers in a bunch. How do you do them?
The only thing I've done a zipper in is, I think I've showed it, is I have a Fair Isle, like I made it as a medicine pouch.
Mhm.
Not the spiritual object, the thing for me to hold my medicine in.
Right.
And I did that by preparing the steak beforehand and folding it in. And then because it was such a small object, I hand stitched.
All right, now everyone take note of that. Ron has only done one zipper. So for those of us that haven't done any zippers, if we go fast, we could actually get ahead of him on something.
Yes, you can. I've only done one zipper. I don't put them in my cardigans because I don't close my cardigans. If I make a cardigan, it's because I want it to be perpetually open.
Well, and able to come on and off easily.
Well, and we need to keep the cold out over here.
Yeah.
So we want to
Yes.
close that stuff up right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the only place I've been able to wear one of my cardigans is a trip I took to Seattle around New Year. Still didn't close it though, because I'm what we in the industry refer to as fat and don't get cold that easily.
You're horrible.
Like, cold is when your sled dog freezes solid.
Warm-blooded.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
Warm hands, cold heart. That is me to a T.
I got an email from Denise last week and she wanted to tell everybody that she missed us. They had just changed their daylight savings time. And so the time that the thing is right now, she's still at work and she can't make it. But she
no.
will have a couple weeks of vacation, I believe the very end of October. And then in November, that first week, we changed daylight savings. So we should be back on the same schedule.
Oh,
I,
well, thank you for explaining
I,
that, Cindy.
Yeah.
put
Yeah,
that
very
back to
nice.
her. Yeah.
So
'Cause
when do
she's
you
like,
change?
tell
Sorry,
everybody that I missed you.
when do you change? The first week of November?
I want to
Yes.
say it's like November 6th or 7th is when we change.
Yeah, it happens after Halloween now. So that
Well,
children
then-
can trick or treat in broad daylight like they love and don't do anymore.
Yeah.
We changed the week before you, I think, then. So, yes, okay, that might confuse me, but we'll see. Yeah.
And this might be the last time we do it, right, guys?
They
I
keep
heard
saying
that 6
that.
months
I'll
ago,
believe
but
it when
it
I see
wasn't.
it. They keep saying that, but it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
I really wish it would be the last time. I
Yeah,
hate,
let's be done with it.
It just gooses me up every time we change.
I know.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Just pick one and stick to it.
We're being kept changing times by big cardiology because of all of the heart problems it strangely gives people.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wanted to shout out
Cardiac
to-
events go up in the week after time changes for some reason.
Wow.
I wanted a big shout out to Jenny. Of course you were correct with the zeros on my socks. I'm like, oh, that little bugger. I can't wait to tell her.
what? Just a minute, Mary, we want to greet you. You snuck
Yes.
in here and we've been talking away.
Hi, Mary.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Mary.
Hey, Mary.
Now, Sumner, tell us about the zeros that you're talking about.
Right.
So Miss Jenny, I should just put it on my foot and show everybody how amazing. So I've always knit my socks on like 2s. And
Okay.
I've got maybe 5, 6 pairs in the drawer, and I love them. And Jenny says, no, knit them on zeros. I knit mine all on zeros because they're so nice and snug, and the negative ease makes the sock. And then she starts showing these gorgeous socks from her sock drawer a couple weeks back. For all you YouTubers, you're gonna have to go through the library. It's worth it. And and then I try on this sock and I'm like, oh, that little bugger. And here I am thinking, oh, I've been knitting socks since the 90s. Yeah, I've now invested in zeros.
Surely it matters if it's a sock yarn size or not.
Well, I always do sock yarn size.
Right, so if you go up to a thicker, you don't want to use a 0.
Yeah, so I wasn't gonna really do a demo, but now I have to do a demo because it's worth showing people.
Oh,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
get 2 socks and I'll stop my video, pick up some socks and come back in a hot second. Mill around. Talk.
Talk among
We'll be
ourselves.
We'll be here when you get back.
Okay, well, I have an actual knitting question.
Okay.
I am concerned that I'm going to run out of yarn on this bright blue Phrancko that I'm doing. I've used 5 skeins for the whole front, but I still, it's like I figured out that I'm doing about 4 inches per skein for this in the size. And I don't know how much it's going to take to do sleeves in proportion to how much it takes to do the body. So what I did is I put the only thing I could figure out. Tell me if I'm wrong or if there's something else. I put the body on a long cable, and then I picked up one of the sleeves, and now I am knitting the sleeve with a new skein to see how far I can get in the sleeve to see if I'm going to be able to make it or not. So
As a general rule, isn't one sleeve roughly the same stitches as the front or the back? So your 2 sleeves will knit up the same as, so if you get 4 inches to a front and a back, you'll get 4 inches to your sleeves as well for one skein, because one sleeve stitch number count is roughly equal to the front of your sweater.
okay, yeah.
I think, from memory. That's what
Well,
mine.
I didn't know. I thought at some point in time I had heard it, like when I used to spin, that it was like, okay, it's this many ounces for the body. But that was also when people were doing it in pieces. And with the Phrancko, by the time I am ready to pick up the sleeve is already down to the underarm, because
Right.
it's not like it's the same amount as it would be if I'm doing the whole thing separate. So I wondered if anybody knew any handy dandy.
No.
Well,
Ron, I don't think
You
I think you're muted.
you can do a calculation.
That's what I said, yeah. I met Microsoft and I was just like, oh, sorry.
So like with
How
the
many
number of
how many stitches
and
around the sleeve where you picked it up? with
okay,
the
there's
cast on?
61.
Okay.
Okay.
And how many rows are in the sleeve? That's,
117.
oh, you calculated it based on the.
Oh
number of
yes, I
people.
did. I have a whole spreadsheet. I am like
see.
with it, but I
Okay.
still couldn't figure out how to do the thing to figure out how much yarn I
Okay,
need.
the 2 sleeves practically make a rectangle if they were splayed open and one was turned upside
One has gone
down.
this way. Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can just multiply the number of stitches across times the number of rows, and that would give you the number of stitches for 2 sleeves.
Okay.
And then if you want to know how many stitches were in the front, take the stitches across the front and multiply it times the number of rows, which is harder to get, but you can calculate it from the length.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
You know,
Well, if
you've
I
been
have
getting
to, I
about
can-
4 inches in a skein, so whatever your row
Well, I
gauge.
know I'm getting
4
4
inches.
inches, so I could just even count 4 inches of rows and see how much it is and
yeah,
how many stitches that was. And then that would tell me, it's like, okay, I can get that much out of one skein.
all right,
Okay,
you could,
so that would work.
that's right.
Okay. All right.
So if
I
you
knew
know,
there had to be a
yes,
way to
if
do
you
it.
know
I
you're
just couldn't
getting
figure it
4
out.
rows, let's, if you know you're getting 4 inches out of one skein, and you know how many stitches there are around the body. So
Yeah, I'd have to look that up, but I do have that written down,
um,
or I could count it still.
A lot.
for rows is your row gauge,
Mhm.
right? So multiply your row gauge for over 4 inches times that
Right.
number of stitches, and that's how many stitches a skein is.
Okay, all right. And then I can figure out how many I've got from the sleeve with the numbers that I've gotten.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's not too hard. I can actually do that much math, I think.
Yeah. The I guess the thing that a person may not think of, but you seem to already have thought of it, is that the sleeve fabric creates a rectangle if you had them, if they were cut open, which of course they're not, but if they were,
Right.
and you laid one in one
And you
direction
had
and the
them
other in the
together.
other direction, then each, oh, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong calculation. You have to add the number of stitches in the wrist, around the wrist, to the number of stitches around the underarm.
Oh, okay, all right.
That
And then
number
do,
is the
that's how
two
you
together.
get the half. So then it's like you've gotten your two things this way, and really then you're cutting it this way and making a rectangle.
That's
I
right.
get it now. I get it.
All
I
right.
did pay attention in math when I was a kid. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I did.
You're having a when are we ever going to use this moment?
That's exactly it.
If you notice, my pattern tells you how many square inches it calculated are in the sweater. And that's how it's done, is by doing those kinds of calculations.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. That's neat.
And with that, I should have one more skein than what I have. But I used a different color of the same yarn, which I know you're not supposed to do either, but I used a different color of the same yarn to do my swatch. And because there was only 10 skeins of this one, and I knew I
And
needed
they're
it. So,
50-gram balls, right?
yeah, so hopefully I'll make it. We'll see.
Did you get my response to your email about
I did, and so that's why I'm busily really trying to
Figuring it
quickly
out.
do trying to do the sleeve to see how much I get from the one skein in the sleeve,
you know?
and then I can do that. And did you get my email back about the hot fudge?
Oh, yes, I did. But then I was waiting to chat with you. I figured you would be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just say, at the top of the pattern, under the materials list, where the yarn is specified, it may or may not tell you the number of skeins you use, because you may or may not be using a standard gauge. But it will always tell you the number of square inches. So
Okay.
you can use that to calculate how much yarn you need for the whole sweater.
And that would actually be really accurate then from my exact what
For
I'm
the exact
getting.
sweater, that's right.
Right. Yeah, for this exact sweater. Okay.
So what I did just the other day is I knitted a 4 by 4 inch swatch.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, no, I did a 2 by 2 inch swatch, very small, but it was, and then I pulled it all out and measured how long the yarn was that made those 4 square inches. 2 by 2 is 4 square inches. So I knew exactly how many yards of yarn were required to produce 4 square inches of fabric. And then I could divide that yardage by 4 and get how much for per square inch. How it
Oh,
that
that's
gave me
cool.
how much yarn creates 1 square inch. Then I multiply that number times the total number of square inches of the sweater. And then I divide by the number of yards in the skein, and the whole number plus a fraction tells me how many skeins I need.
Thanks, Frank. I think I'll have nightmares now.
I was afraid that might be getting to be too much math for some people, but it's
I
really
hung on there for a while and then I fell off at the end.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, you may want to multiply your estimate by like 5 or 10%. Just to give yourself some safety, to see if it's
Oh,
in
yeah,
that
to give a little
threshold of
bit.
tolerance.
you might want to do
If
that.
it's really close,
Yeah.
then you can find your end.
When I
You're left
actually,
with-
when I come to think of it, I think that yardage also includes enough square inches to do a 5 by 5
Swatch.
swatch.
And I just read it again and I had misunderstood, but it shows on the pattern that it was estimated to be 10 skeins, 1,385 square inches. So I should make it.
Yeah, you'll
Good.
make it.
So that'll be good.
The number of skeins is probably a too liberal estimate. Every sweater I've done has been fewer skeins than that number but
Oh, okay, all right.
I did it.
Well,
I calculated in a very liberal way because I don't want people to fall short. But then that means some people may be buying too much yarn and then be mad at me because I told them to buy too much.
well, if I have a little too much, it will just be a little longer and she will be happy because after I said how long it was going to be and I did the pattern, she said, oh, well, maybe you can make it a little longer. It's like, oh, thanks, dear.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Frank. I find that people absolutely do not get mad at designers about things like that. They get mad at me.
because
I'm
they,
not mad at
because they want to
you.
come back 6 months later when you're no longer carrying that color
Yes.
of any of those lots and say, I want my money back because I didn't use this. Is that? Then they get mad at you.
Yeah, just like,
Or do
would
you
you do
have
that at a
enough?
grocery store? I didn't use this potato. There was enough mash for everyone. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
gosh.
I have to say on your estimates, you were pretty good because if you recall, my first go at this particular sweater, I put a 5 instead of a 4
Uh-huh.
in my gauge and I had to redo, and I redid another swatch and it said I needed another skein of the Andiamo light. So I needed 4. Now they're huge skeins,
Oh.
huge,
Yeah,
but I did break into it.
you did.
I did. Not much. I'm going to
Yeah.
have enough for a scarf because they're huge skeins.
Yeah.
But thank you. And thank you, Ron, for rescuing my butt, so I had enough.
You got it.
Instead of sending you 4 Andiamo instead of
And
Andiamo,
yeah,
right?
rug yarn. Yeah, I don't have rug yarn. So some fun things. I brought the socks, a little show and tell.
All right.
So here's
me
a pair of
spotlight you.
socks I wear all the time. And no, I can't put my feet over my head, so I'm going to put it on my hand. But I love these socks. They're
Oh,
very
yeah.
worn,
Oh, that's great.
lovely, washed a ton, right? This is on the zeros. It's so nice and snug.
Oh,
Oh,
and you can
Very
tell it
neat.
just the fabric is a lot finer too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
crisp. Same gauge yarn.
wow. And
But
what
it's
gauge is
zero.
that yarn? I mean, what is it? Fingering weight or
This is sock weight. This
Okay.
is sock yarn. Yeah,
sock weight is
Sock-
fingering
sock
weight,
weight.
right?
yeah,
Mhm,
it's
yeah.
fingering. Yeah. But in the crispness of the heel,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that line,
What kind of heel did you do?
this is the Arnie heel from Arnie and Carlos,
Oh, okay.
which I liked. It was very easy. I'll definitely do another one, but then I'm gonna do the fish kiss lips heel
Yes.
that Jenny.
Fish
And
lips.
you were
kid.
right about the sock gauge, Jenny. I'm gonna take your advice on the fish lips kiss.
Driver heel.
And then I wanted to show you my zipper in my sweater that I love. So this is a sweater that I made. You can see that I love that woolly yarn,
Wow,
right?
That's pretty.
that's
He's got a
awesome.
type.
Now, the zipper, just to show you how the sausage is made, it goes from the top up and bottom down, but I just sew it in. There's nothing fancy
Oh, wow. That's
Wow,
cool.
on the
Neat.
machine.
Yeah.
that's great.
So you
So
just
how do you get a
fold
zipper
and then
that's
fold?
exactly the right size?
You can get adjustable zippers.
Okay.
You just get a zipper a little bit longer than what you need. You cut the top off and you fold it down and sew. So
Okay.
you lock the top of the zipper.
Oh,
This particular one, I didn't do any of that. I just snipped it. Nothing's gonna happen. I mean, it's just a zipper. Right up.
That's cool.
But you want the double zipper, this is a
Right.
two.
So that
zipper.
you can
That's
go up
the
or
only time
down
that you can do
and
that.
adjust. Mhm.
There's two
Yeah.
little zipper things.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can't do that.
what keeps
so
them
you
from
just-
pulling right off if you just cut the thing and didn't? do
Um,
it?
the bottom one's fused with that long piece to put the zipper in, right? So, see, right?
Oh, okay,
That's fused, the bottom one.
yeah,
But when you cut the top one, if you use stitch witchery, love that stuff. That's the backing that iron, you fuse it with your
Mhm. Yeah,
iron.
it's like sticky
So
for sewing.
you can turn that last bit of sweater over it and you steam it. And it's
Oh.
really firm and it's like a professional zipper edge. There's
That is
nothing.
great.
it's
Right.
kind of hard to see. Hold it up, oh, yeah. Hmm,
There you go.
So I just tuck the zipper in under the yarn with a little of
Right.
the stitch witchery and it fuses and nothing's going to happen to it because
right,
the zipper is on this like grosgrain ribbon with the teeth are attached to it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
that's
It ends
great.
up being a really simple. So maybe a placard, maybe not, maybe just a zipper. Because like it's 50 degrees out. It's a little warm to have a pullover sweater on inside the house. So just being able to open it would
That's
make
nice.
it that much more comfortable. Because I don't want to ever stop touching this yarn. It's so beautiful. it's so squishy and soft, right? It's like getting a hug, you know? It's
Ooh.
lovely. So enough about me, but I'm making a hat.
Oh, that's
Wonderful.
beautiful.
Nice hat.
Brioche, right?
No, this is just like a Fair Isle.
Oh, it is fair.
Yeah, nothing, just
Ribbing.
floating, just double strand.
Very smart. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cute. I'll give that away. But
That's nice.
Do you know that grosgrain is the etymological basis for the word grog?
is it really?
No.
Yeah.
No way. It's been around that long, huh?
Yes. Yeah. A particular naval officer always wore a outfit made of grosgrain fabric. So the Navy rum ration mixed with water and goo became known as grog on the
Oh,
basis
wow.
of the outfit this
Wild.
guy always wore.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
And that's the thing I know about grosgrain ribbon and rum.
Yeah, so don't be afraid of zippers. Just throw it on your machine. You'll be fine.
I have a question, if you don't mind, on
Right,
the
sure.
pattern that I just built with you, Frank. I have maybe made a boo-boo
Yes.
The
Whatever.
pattern is for my little grandson, who is a little beanpole, little tiny neck.
Uh-huh.
And like Cindy said, they all have huge heads. So you have trouble getting the sweater over the little bulbous heads, especially then they have glasses on. So
Uh-huh.
I decided that I would put a little bit bigger measurement for his neck. Like he has 11-inch neck. So I
Okay.
thought I put in 13. I kept all the other measurements correct, just so that that would be a little bigger. Is that going to affect anything?
That won't affect anything else. It'll just make the neck a little wider, but probably not any deeper. An alternative, you have a crew neck pattern, right? You chose the crew neck.
It's going to be the saddles,
Oh, the saddle shoulder.
shoulders.
Oh,
Is it?
I was going to say, if you had the crew neck, it comes with 2 other necklines, and one of them is a deeper neck. Well, both of them are deeper. One of them is really deep. It's a scoop neck. You wouldn't want that, but
I do have a pattern. I do have that other pattern, the crew neck pattern.
the crew neck pattern has a link in the box at the top online that says click here for round neck or click here for
Right.
scoop neck. And so if you do the round neck pattern, you'll see that the neckline gets deeper.
Right. I do have that for him when he was 6, and that he hasn't really changed width wise, so I could use that and just continue
Oh yeah,
longer.
adjusting the length is the easiest thing to change. You don't need a new
Right.
pattern to have the pattern tell you knit 23 inches instead of 21 inches.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
Okay, well, good.
How old is he?
He'll be 8 in a month or 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've always cut into the shoulder and put a couple buttons in with
Ah,
kid sweaters, because
Yeah.
you're never going to get it over their head.
The
You're right.
Henley is also a
And
good option.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you
Only does too.
Yeah, did you
Yeah.
hear what Ron just said? The
The
Henley,
Henley.
yeah,
Trying to
Oh,
remember
yeah,
what the
Henley.
Henley looks like.
It has buttons, just a couple little
Oh,
buttons
okay,
down
yeah,
the
it has a
front
little
here.
button.
Mhm,
Okay.
Little packet.
Yeah.
there's
I
a
love Henleys.
picture of it on the page that where you select your pattern
Right.
color.
and it's pretty much the same sweater, it's just with buttons.
That's
Yeah.
right. You
And it
just
was all
leave the
reprofiled.
neckline open for 4
I
inches.
wanted to try the little saddle show. I don't know why. I just wanted to try those little shoulder. They look like little military.
Epaulets.
Epaulets, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love the saddle shoulder. You can do a saddle Henley.
Yeah,
Oh.
a mutant bride.
you
Right.
can't generate it on the website, but you can generate something that you can then turn into a saddle Henley,
Oh.
is what he means.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it's easy to do. I mean, really, the Henley is just a crew neck or a saddle shoulder or anything you want. And then instead of closing the neckline, you leave it open and
Right.
keep it open for 4 inches as you go down. Remembering to start the sleeve caps at the same time while it's still open. So then you're working sleeve caps in both directions, unlike the crew neck, which is you already finished the collar. So the sleeve caps are all done knitted. But if you did if you changed it and kept this open, then you'd be knitting and purling across sleeve
Right.
caps. So you just have to adjust the type of increase you're doing, whether you're knitting or purling.
I'm
Right,
coming to that point in mine where I'm gonna have to make a decision soon.
Tim is doing a Henley right behind me.
Oh, yay.
Hi, Tim.
Started it. I worked it.
Okay, good. That's a lot of good info.
Did you see the photo of my dad and his Henley I put on the
Yes.
forums? He
Yes,
finally
was
got it.
lovely.
It was awesome.
He's already
No,
been
I'll have to
floating.
look.
Oh, and so your mom probably wants another one, huh?
He had me take photos of him wearing it and text them to him so that he could send pictures to his friends and brag.
That's
Just lovely.
fine.
Yeah. So
They're gonna be calling you, his friends.
no way.
Would you like to pull up one of those pictures on your computer and then share your
Oh.
screen and show it to us? Because
Yeah,
for the purpose of the video anyway, I think
sure.
several of us
Yeah.
have already seen it, but
Let
do that.
me, maybe I can go to Ravelry. I'll let you know when I've got it.
okay.
Oh, speaking of, I had a customer here who doesn't get to stop in the shop that often because she has a baby clothing store of her own that is at this time, and she's usually there. But she told me that she watches the Phrancko videos on and puts us on in the background. She said she just listens to her friends. So
Is that right?
Oh, that's
hello.
nice.
Oh, that's fun.
Hi.
So now she'll know. So I thought that was great.
Oh, and I also got an email from Kay today. She said
Oh.
that she'd been missing us and she hopes to get back. She's been really busy, but she is working on another Phrancko. She asked if I would share my spreadsheet that I did for when I'm doing the decreases at the front and the V-neck and the sleeves at the same time, kind of how I did that. And so I sent that to her. And so she said she's gonna try to come, but
Oh,
to tell
good.
everybody hello.
Very nice, thank you. I got invited to teach at my local yarn shop.
Ooh, and what are you
Oh,
gonna
wow.
teach?
That's
Socks?
kind of fun. Well, I think she wants to start with a beginner knit because she has a new yarn store and she
Mhm.
wants to get just people into the store buying stuff.
Mhm.
Wait till I drop a Phrancko on them, right?
Well, I think you should. It's like, oh, and for your first sweater project, you can do a Phrancko.
That's right.
I
That
just
would blow
had
their
my
mind.
When you say a beginner knit, do you mean you're actually going to teach beginners to knit?
Teach beginners to knit.
I think that's the hardest lesson to do. I've never succeeded at it.
I have a knack for teaching lefties for some god-unknown reason. I have
Oh,
no
is that
idea. But
like
if you're a
left-handed
lefty,
people or
apparently
communists.
I'm your teacher. Yeah, yeah. Yes, communist knitters. But thank you, Ron.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I'm really good at teaching left-handed knitters. I don't know why. I just knit.
I like to say that the three hardest things to learn to do in all of knitting are casting on, working a knit stitch, and working a purl stitch. Those
Yeah.
are the three hardest things to learn to do. And
And
you have
that's
to learn all
knitting.
three of them right at the start.
To do
At the
it.
same time.
At
We
the
just
same
had
time.
our first session of our first in-person knitting classes since the pandemic began on Thursday. And so I just taught someone who had never held yarn in her life. Two crocheters were in the class who at least had some ideas about yarn management and tension. And one person who was just like, thought it would be fun. And so,
There you go.
all right, I've got some pictures of,
Oh, good.
let me share my screen. Photos.
Mm,
Working.
that's
There he
lovely.
is.
Yeah,
Oh,
Look,
that's
there he
great.
is.
How cute is that? That's fantastic.
Love
So,
it.
wait, there he is.
I love his ham radio call sign. That's so cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
our family agriculture business is called Warren Ag Services. So he got a vanity call sign, N6 WAS for Warren Ag Service. So yeah, they came down to Bakersfield from the coast and were in their home here. And he finally was in town long enough and I was in the right place to give him his sweater. And you see the biceps and this part of the sleeve are a bit larger than they need to be for him. There's a lot of positive ease there.
oh, yes.
And it's to accommodate the chart. I didn't want to
Oh,
work decreases in the chart because I wanted the whole call sign to be there for whatever reason. But he says
Yeah.
he quite likes it. He likes the freedom of movement, and he is cold. He is a cold person. He forgets to put his blood in every morning or something. And like you
And it
go
looks
into
like
his
it's the
house.
saddle shoulder, is that correct?
That is the saddle shoulder. Yes, you can see just here. Boop, 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 boop. Is my cursor on the
Yeah.
screen?
Yes,
Am I-
it is.
Yes, it
for
is.
no reason. Okay.
I
Yeah.
love the ease in the
Ah!
scene.
It's
I don't know who
the
that
headshot.
was.
Be
That's
careful,
fun.
Ron.
Yeah, I will.
You can stop sharing.
I will. Okay, where am I? How do I do that?
At the bottom of the screen, you'll see or at the top, there's a red button.
There it is.
that says
Stop
sharing.
Okay.
That's
There we go.
great. Yeah, I love more ease in the arm. I really do.
Yeah, he fiddles around a lot, by which I mean he is a gremlin and gets into things and takes them apart while no one's looking. So, but the freedom of movement he really likes in
Yeah.
there, and it tapers down to a more typical amount of ease at the wrists, so it stays on properly. But yeah, he really enjoyed it and started sending pictures to I don't know who to brag about his new ham radio sweater.
That is really fun.
Well, Frank, isn't that an option for one of the ways that you can do the sleeves, that you can do the sleeves with part of it going straight and
Oh,
then
yes.
tapering later?
I
Or you
combined
could
the
just do
so that was based on the longer sleeve with the straight area.
But it probably didn't go far enough for you. It looks like.
It actually did,
Oh.
but the ease that I put in, that I changed his bicep size to
Oh.
get the proper multiple for the chart.
okay.
Right.
So it was the two things going on at once. There are no reductions in the bicep. And it was actually pretty much per the pattern. The chart was the length at which that alternate set of instructions, in case you didn't know, there were alternate sleeves in your patterns. There is one. It
Yes.
stopped after the chart. So that was what I did.
Yeah,
I
very
guess-
nice. I did a
well, in
similar
here-
thing with mine. I added a little bit to my bicep and I took an inch away from my wrist because I like to always pull up my sleeves. And it means that my cuffs aren't going to get so wonky that they are floppy.
So basically it wound up that there's 2 or 3.5 or 4 inches of ease in the chest, I think. And then another 1.5 inches of ease at the bicep extra, and then down to nothing at the wrist.
Nicely done. I might recommend you publish that pattern.
With my dad's
Or-
call sign on it.
Stands call sign.
For people like your buddy Sumner, who has a friend with a ham radio call sign.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go. Make a
yes,
little
and
minimalist.
publish the entire alphabet.
I had to make a minimalist alphabet. I guess the good thing is call signs are the same number of letters.
Yeah,
Um,
just saying it's doable.
got it. Yeah, I've been working pretty hard on getting my patterns up and ready. I sent one off. Thank you so much, Cindy, for getting back to me with those things. And
You're welcome.
quick answers. You can make whatever you like. I have a 2T. That was the prototype that I made.
Okay. Well, I was
Uh,
thinking I would rather do the 6,
Sure.
but whichever one you needed.
Please yourself.
That would be good. Okay.
It might be good to
Well,
see.
it's please the grandkid is what it is. She was like, "Oh, I think it's my turn next," and she's 4. So
Good.
Training them well.
yes.
And if you give me just a second, I can share the new sweater I'm working on now. I'm just coming to the end of my row here onto the neck edge, collar edge. So it might look more like a sweater than it did at last week's meeting. So
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
are the shoulders, right?
Mhm.
And then this is the collar, and it's flipped forward right now.
Mhm.
But there's
That's
top
great, Willie
shoulders.
yarn.
So when
That's
it's
lovely.
worn, the That will be the
Yeah.
back collar.
Oh,
There's the shoulder right there. And then that comes around the front, and there'll be a garter stitch border all the way down. Cardigan with no closures, basically.
did you
A little-
start with the collar? Is that what you did?
Yes, I cast on a number of stitches equal to the shoulder width in stitches,
Okay,
and a number of rows of garter stitch equal to twice the number of stitches at the back neck that you would cast on normally. So one is picked up in every garter ridge. So there's no short row shaping on the back neck because that's hard to do in this circumstance. So yeah, this, like from here to here, there's the cast on, a provisional cast on right there. So this segment of the back collar was knit first, and then the back shoulders get cast on and picked up right here to form the back collar.
and why is that a provisional cast on? Are you going to use this
Because
something else?
when I go back around, because you do the shoulders separately, right? So the back shoulders are knit. Where's the back shoulder? Here's one. Are knit like this, just right here. And then when you pick up the front, you pick up stitches, in that center, in the center of each stitch like you normally do, and then continue the garter stitch down the edge of the front collar. So to avoid having a pickup, a cast on turn to the inside of one side of the collar, it's picked up there from provisional stitches to work garter stitch in that direction. So you could see at the end of each row, I work more garter stitch. So my original panel of garter stitch is growing from both ends now.
I see. Can't wait to see it finished so we can really understand what you.
Yeah, it's a lot of, what is, you'll see, it's very clear when it's easier done than said.
What's the wool?
This is Alba by guess who? By Jody
Jody
Long,
Long.
By Jody? It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
held double stranded.
So it
So
looks like
it is
it's
like a-
tweed.
A sport weight tweed,
Yeah.
and I'm holding it double to work it at a worsted gauge.
Okay. By the way, my husband can't wait to put his Star Trek hat on.
Good,
Loves the Star Trek hat.
I'm so glad. It should be an easy chart to put in across the chest of a Phrancko sweater.
Yeah.
Get him in the room and I'll say that again.
I turned in my pattern this week for the next Cast On magazine. It's the
Oh, yay.
it's the sweater I call the Hilton Header, and it's the shawl collar with the herringbone fabric for the body.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Can you,
It will be in the next Cast On magazine, which comes out at the beginning of next month.
I know you had to make an alteration to the stitch pattern so that the stitch markers didn't have to move all over the place,
Yes.
right? But can you share the source of that pattern to begin with? Do you remember where that came from?
Do you mean you want to see it before I modified it or after?
Like, where did the pre-modified version come from?
It came from the instructions for a swatch in level 2 of the TKGA Master's Certificate Program.
Fair enough.
I think it was level 2.
Does that swatch have a citation from where they got the stitch pattern?
I bet Cindy would know. Yes.
I don't remember one of the, so that was
Oh.
like the honeycomb or something?
No,
What
Herringbone.
is it?
it's
Herringbone,
herringbone,
okay.
but
Let me just
maybe
look
it's
here.
level 3. Maybe you haven't seen it yet. I don't know.
It might be level 3. It's not ringing a bell with me.
And
I am only
oh,
on
it is a
swatch
Barner
11,
Walker
but
pattern. Uh,
Oh.
How can I find that?
I was just thumbing through my things, thinking of that because I thought it would be a fetching panel on something that was percolating in my brain. Hi, Mary.
it doesn't look like it's in level 2. Now, maybe they've changed, but it's not in
Uh,
level 2 now.
Well, I'll look in my level 3 swatches. Oh, there it is. It's in level 3.
Wow.
Swatch number 8. And
Plug your ears, Cindy.
references. Walker, A Treasury of Knitting Patterns, page 143.
So the first one. Great. Let me write that down. Thank you so much for finding that.
Dang, I can't find the book right now.
Well, look at that.
I have to write that down. Page
It's right up to the
143.
page. It's,
Oh,
it's
that's
this
fun.
one here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, the reason it's a swatch in level 3 is because it's difficult to keep the increases and decreases at the correct place.
Mm,
And I worked with this pattern, I bet 3 days trying to figure out why was that so difficult and what can I do to make it easier to keep track of where, I mean, especially if you're doing something where you're going to be adding increases across at the ends of each row. How do you make sure you've got them all lined up? And it's really hard to tell by looking at the fabric. So I learned that it's because of the increase she is using. The best I can tell, it's a verbal description of the increase, but I think the verbal describes the a lifted stitch increase.
mhm, mhm.
She grabs the purl bump from the knit stitch from the stitch below, puts it on the needle.
Oh, yeah, then that's a lifted.
And
Mhm.
knits or purls that.
Mhm.
She knits that. And she does it to the right and she does it to the left.
Yeah.
And
for that one, you have to, like, one of them, you do the lift before you work the stitch. And then if you're going the other direction, you have to work the stitch first and then do the lift.
And you go down one more column.
And you go down one more, right?
One
Because
more,
you've already worked. So it's like,
whale.
it's not a hard increase to do, but it is kind of a confusing one because of that.
It's one of those knitting things that is easier to do than say.
Right. Mhm.
So what I figured out was I tried placing markers at various places and the markers keep moving because you either do
Yeah.
2 increases before you get to the next marker or 2 decreases or whatever. They just, and they kept moving apart or they kept moving together at row after row. And I wondered why that was. It didn't matter whether I put the marker on the left of the increase or to the right of the increase. It turns out that if you take the increase and do a make one instead of that kind of increase, you can either do the increase, slip the marker, and then knit the stitch, or you can knit the stitch, slip the marker, and do the increase. But you can't do that easily if there's a marker next to the stitch you want to do a lifted increase around the marker. So that was the only complication to the pattern. So I just changed the pattern. I don't do the lifted increase. I do make ones on the right or the left of the marker, and the marker's right in the middle of the 7-stitch repeat.
That's interesting
Very clever.
about the increases and stuff. I'm working the the decreases for the sleeve right now. And that's always hard kind of for me to count of you have to like go all the way around and then you do the decrease and then you start the next round and then do the decrease to get them next to each other. Or if you do them on the same row, they actually are staggered.
Yes, that's why the pattern
And
says on row 1, start with
on
the
row 1 and row
decrease,
2.
and then
So
at the end of row 2, or is that it?
do the,
The other
it's
way
at the
around.
beginning of row 2, the end
Yeah.
of row 1, beginning of row
End
2.
of row 1, beginning of row 2. That's right.
So what I did, being the real little rebel that I am, I moved the beginning of round marker to the top of the sleeve. And then on row 1, and I have another little marker on the underneath. And when I hit that marker, then I do decrease before, knit a stitch, decrease after,
I
go
see.
around and count.
Ah,
And it makes it a lot easier for me to just think of it that way. I don't know
Right.
why, but it's weird.
No, I think that
But-
makes total sense.
I use
So
the
that's what
gentle
I'm doing
elastic
with this.
trick.
Well, I used that one too, but still I was having trouble counting. And this one, it's like, well, why don't I just move it to the other side? And then it's like, okay, this is a decrease round. When I go around, I'm just going to do them both. I don't have to think about, okay, am I on the 1 or am I on the 2?
Right.
And
I got lost
don't
on
know.
that because I was, you all taught me about the elastics.
Mhm.
So I was putting the elastics at the increase. What I changed it to is first stitch, first row, because of the beginning of the round marker. That's where the elastic goes. And that's where I know that's the row at the end. I do the
Did you do the
two
decrease?
together,
Oh, that's interesting.
and then
And
I
then-
knit the stitch above the elastic, and then I do the SSK
Yeah.
and knit around. And it worked out a lot better for me that way. The elastic going on the first stitch of the first round, and knowing that the decreases, because you're still counting your decreases,
Right.
don't start until row 2.
Right.
You know, so it worked out, whatever, in
And
my
it is. So that's one of
knitting
those,
brain.
and it is, it's one of those
Funny,
funny
we-
things of how to figure it out.
We all struggle with the same thing in the pattern there.
Yeah,
And
we figure it out
my
different ways.
solution is, I know when I'm starting row 1, and I've got to remember to do those 2 decreases when I get to
At the
row
end
1.
of row 1, and I
At
was
the
not
end of row
remembering
1,
at the
and I
end.
keep forgetting. And so I'm just so, I think I know when I start row 1, I need to do the increases at the end. And so what I do is I take an elastic. If I realize I'm at row 1, I take an elastic and I put it on my needle. And then I knit all the way around. And when I see that elastic at the end of the row,
Oh, I
know
see.
that-
Oh, that's cute.
that's when I'm going to do
Okay.
the increase before the elastic, and so forth.
Oh, that's clever.
That's good too.
That's clever. Because I was losing count of the rows.
Yeah,
So I took out a sleeve from the elbow back up because I'm like, screw this. I'm using elastics and I'm losing track of the rows. So I
yeah,
just had
counting
write
counting the
down-
rows can be tricky. You have to realize that the row that you do the increase in is
row
not the
1.
row where you see the decrease.
Right, it's row
You
1.
see the decrease, but it was created by the row above the decrease. That's your
Mhm.
row
Right.
that you count.
Right.
Yeah.
But it really did work. Like elastic is first stitch of first row of row 1. And now when I go around, oh, there's my decrease. And I'm just knowing that there's my other decrease.
That's right.
Right. And then now I know how many rows I have till the next row 1. So it just, I don't know, whatever.
That works good.
3 different ways to get to the same spot.
Yes.
Just like knitters, aren't we? Yeah.
Right. Jenny, we haven't heard much from you today. What's going on?
And I'm just listening away and enjoying the conversation. I've started my lace weight sweater again, 3rd time lucky.
Lovely.
So
All right.
So we are now,
Got the little
hard to
sleeve
see.
caps there.
yeah, got the little sleeve caps going.
Oh, nice.
That yarn
I'm
is
really
just
pleased with.
beautiful.
It is, yeah, yeah. So really pleased with that. And somewhere in there is the join. Oh yeah, somewhere in there is the join for the sleeve. I think you could just see it
Uh-huh.
at the top there. Hard to see, but yeah.
Good
So-
that it's hard to see.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I have to have a good look to find it. So really pleased.
Props
Yeah.
to you, Jenny.
Tim, would you like to show off what you got?
That's
up
really
close?
beautiful.
I haven't
Yeah.
made much progress.
Jenny, something funny. The yarn store lady that I'm going to teach at, she literally gave me enough lace weight yarn to make a sweater. And
Oh,
I said, oh, thank you. And I went right to the post office and I mailed it to Nashville, Tennessee. Ain't happening over here, Jenny. Props to
Do you know how many people you're going to teach? Do you know how many people you're going to be teaching?
Probably to start only like 4 to 6 because it's
Yeah.
beginner.
So what
You know.
I did when I had a group of 5, the night before, I just spent some time and I started all of them off on garter stitch. So on each set of needles, I'd got a cast on and 3 rows of garter stitch done.
It's exactly what I do.
Yeah. So then
It's
they're just off
exactly
on
what
the,
I do.
on the knit stitch. Yeah.
And I have
yeah.
a bunch of number 10 needles, straight, just
Yes.
straights. And then I'll have that many sets. And then I'll show them how I got to that point, and then they're going to pick up.
And
You
go,
don't just
yeah.
cast on till like week 3.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 In my first day, I made them learn like 5 different ways to tension their yarn after learning to cast on. But I have Tim's sweater here to
Ooh,
show
that's
Oh,
lovely.
Oh,
progress.
yay.
This is the point where he is.
Oh, I love that yarn. That's
So
gorgeous.
this is Nimbus by Juniper Moon Farm. So he's
Oh,
just done
that's
his
nice,
pickup.
Tim.
We had a
Great
little
color.
bug
Yeah.
in the pattern, but we worked backward to figure out the cast on there. And so
That's
that's it.
gorgeous.
It's very
Yeah.
stretchy.
So you figured out how many to pick up across the selvage edge. So
Yeah.
keep going. Good.
Yeah. So then, I mean, whatever's going on in here, if something is whatever, just keep going.
Yeah.
Increases will happen. It'll be a sleeve someday. So yeah, he's
Really
doing
nice.
it because I
Looking
bullied
great.
him.
Good job, Tim.
I
Okay.
wanted to make this.
I bullied him into wanting to.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
Well, it's that time. And it has been another wonderful week with you all. So we'll see you next week.
Have a
Bye,
good week,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.
Invite your
Everybody.
friends. We're
Thanks.
welcoming.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.